To us, music, instead of learning it from written scores and so on, it was always passed through an oral tradition. And that's an oral tradition that makes us to be the musician that we are today.
The human voice has always been the primary instrument. And then the instruments come after. And of course in South Africa, most of it comes out of rural areas. And the tradition of singing in the rural areas was quite amazing. And of course now when people moved from the rural areas, when they moved into the townships, they just brought that vocal tradition into the urban area, and then it was translated into instruments.
Music, and particularly popular singing, still has a very big role. There's a very strong choral tradition from primary schools to high schools, and within political movements and civic organizations, singing is a very strong unifying influence. And there's no doubt that there's nothing like music and song and people singing together as a way of unifying a crowd, giving courage to a crowd. There was a gathering of energy and courage that came from the toi-toi, that came from songs that were sung, that came from hymns, that came from all the various ways in which art could make you larger than yourself, part of something more than your individual self.
One of the subjects that's come up is the role of the voice in South African culture and how it perhaps differs from the role that the voice plays in other cultures. And I think that the answer to that question is as complex as the country itself. As part of UBUNTU, we have the tribute to Miriam Makeba that Angelique Kidjo is organizing. Miriam Makeba being the first African superstar, someone from the continent of Africa who was able to gain an international following for her vocalism. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have the types of traditional vocalism, groups like Phuzakamizi, who are bringing over Zulu folk traditions, and traditional Cape Malay singers who are bringing over their own form of vocalism that has evolved over 200-300 years. Classically, South Africa has a disproportionate number of singers emerging into the spotlight. We have 2 South African singers performing recitals in Wild Recital Hall. Pretty Yende is from a quite remote part of South Africa, a place called Piet Retief. She went to the University of Cape Town and studied classical voice there. She made a huge splash jumping in for the role of Countess Adele in the Comptorie at the Met in January of 2013, which coincidentally was the same month that Elsa Vandenhaver made her Metropolitan Opera debut in the role of Elizabeth I opposite Joyce DiDonato's Maria Stuarda. I think between the two of them you get a sense of what sort of potential lies in South African classical vocalism.